Well, hello everybody, and I am back today with Kathy Biehl and Andy Brewer, and we are gonna kind of dive into more stuff that's happening post-election. And we keep seeing, obviously, like the news cycle is just like coming at us. I do want to say that we're on the day, we're recording this Friday, the 15th, on the day of the full moon, conjunct Algol. Timothy Snyder on Substack called his daily post the decapitation report, and that's Algol. And Algol is right at the top of Trump's chart. So that's very relevant, but also Saturn stationing direct. We're going to go through a few charts and look at a bit of a timeline. We still maintain that all of this is coming out because it's the astrology shows us, and I think a lot of people we all think I think that a lot of people are kind of seeing it now and going, "Oh my God, this is really what's been going on," and there will be turnarounds. Anyway, Kathy, you noticed something too that before we look at charts about the poly market, right? Which a lot of us
Well,
have
I
been
would,
looking at. Mm-hmm.
right. Well, this full moon in Taurus, which has to do with money,
Mm,
uh, is conjunct Uranus, sudden shocks. Uranus also rules technology,
mm-hmm.
and there's also like lightning, and this full moon is in a an opportunity relationship with fog, so lightning piercing the fog. Well, a piece of news that fits this is an FBI raid of the home of seizing the phone of the president of an online betting platform called Polymarket. I believe Peter Thiel is an investor in this platform,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and this platform predicted Trump's win. And a week before the win, Elon Musk had a screenshot of the US map with the states red and blue and he called it the prophecy. And
Mm-hmm.
then it that's exactly how things played out. So the phone, uh,
Mm-hmm.
that all of these things fit, and this says to me, this fits. There is more to the story. There are shocking things come out. And I also want to remind people that Uranus conjunct Algol has hit the doorway to Trump's career house.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, the last time I did this, it's kind of like ongoing until what, March, April. But the last time I did this was when there was a shooting in Butler, and
Mm-hmm.
something happening to his head, Algol. So there's something big and ongoing with this.
Oh
And the
yes.
fact that Saturn is stationing direct at this, and that means that it's been retrograde since the beginning of October. It's been sitting in the same spot, and it's now stationing direct, and it's not going to actually move to a different degree until the end of the year, but it's in
Mm-hmm.
an unbroken flow with the US sun. So there's a
Mm-hmm.
possibility of major stabilizing
Mm-hmm.
and a turnaround and stabilizing coming out of this.
And an unbroken flow with the US ascendant. So, which is kind of our, how we're seen as a country and our identity and many other things. And we'll look at the US chart in a minute. If it's all right with you guys, can we quickly look at Trump's chart very quickly, just to show what we were talking
Right.
about? And I do want to point out some things I've noticed about out of bounds planets. So I'm just going to share it now. And out of bounds planets are where planets are more than 23 degrees 26 minutes north or south declination from the ecliptic. And what an out of bounds planet is said to do is break the rules. It is literally breaking the bounds of normality. The planets act very differently. Singer Bjork has many out of bounds planets. Now, Donald Trump himself was born with Ceres and Venus out of bounds. And this is a Venusian um, full moon because Taurus is one of Venus's signs. The moon was out of bounds on election day, by the way, as well. So, because the moon goes out of bounds twice a month around the signs of late Gemini, Cancer, and early Leo, or the opposite signs, and that's because of where they are. But anyway, I just wanted to mention, and there's too much to give too much detail, that right now we have Mercury out of bounds until November the 30th as Mercury approaches its retrograde. And so everything we talk about until November the 30th about Mercury, just think Mercury is out of bounds. Venus is out of bounds until December the 3rd at 25 Capricorn, and Ceres is out of bounds until January the 13th at 13 Aquarius. All of those points hit Donald's chart because Venus will go back in bounds exactly on his Venus, which is kind of insane. And Mercury will go back in bounds and then station retrograde exactly on his south node. And at this point, because I've been studying out of bounds planets for a while, because he has two out of bounds planets that are out of bounds, it seems to be exacerbating this feeling of, oh my God, he's breaking all the rules kind of thing, or the rules of normality. But everything has a shine and shadow. We can also break the rules and do things differently. So anyway, that's all I wanted to say about that, about his chart for now. As Kathy said, Uranus is on this full moon today, right at the top of his chart. We looked at that last time. There's the Algol, the decapitation report that Timothy Snyder wrote about this morning. Anything anybody wants to talk about his chart? I know we covered a lot of it last time, and we will look again. But yeah.
Well, I will mention that there's his angles, the how he deals with people. So his
Mm,
relationship angle first and seventh houses, and then the angle down the center of the chart, which is where he's at home in the world and where he's at home in his actual physical home.
mm,
Um, they're in fixed signs, so they seem fairly, they're really, really immovable, and we have an explosive event blowing up the immovability. So don't be
mm,
so sure that there isn't something that's going to bring a huge plot twist
mm-hmm,
soon because of this. And I will add to that, that Pluto, the planet of distribution of power,
mm-hmm.
is going to move
Oh
into
yes.
Aquarius next week. And it's been there, it's ducked in there a few times. We can talk more when we look at other charts as to things that have brought, but you have some examples of things that have happened to him in the two previous times that were
Mm-hmm.
extremely not good news for him.
Yeah, and it was a comment on your YouTube channel, wasn't it, that pointed this out. So it was March 2023, the first time on the day Pluto moved into Aquarius was when he was ordered to turn over the documents. And then about a week later, he was charged with 30 counts. And then the next time Pluto moved into Aquarius, which was June, I think, 2024. But that about a week again,
January, January
January,
20.
sorry. Yeah, about a week after that again. So, don't think on the day necessarily. About a week after was when he was ordered to pay $86 million to E. Jean Carroll. So, Pluto's ingress into Aquarius has not been that kind to him in the two
And
previous occasions. Mm.
and Uranus, which is active now, rules Aquarius. So
Mm-hmm.
rather than getting into specifics and, oh my God,
Mm-hmm.
horrible things are going to happen, just know the path ahead for this man is not on a conveyor belt.
No.
It's not on a conveyor belt going smoothly, smoothly, smoothly to
It,
inauguration day at
it,
all. And this time period
mm-hmm.
has explosive probabilities attached to it.
And Saturn, of course, is the co-ruler of, I don't love the word ruler, but of Aquarius, and Saturn stationed direct this morning in his seventh house of politics and open enemies and all kinds of things like that. And I also believe that the Russians have, didn't they publish the nude photos of Melania, and apparently they're, you know, whilst they're celebrating his win, the Russians, they've also been kind of like ridiculing him quite a little bit as well, which, you know, this guy loves being adored. That won't go down well. So things are, yeah. Anyway, Andy, anything to say on him before we move to the USA's chart?
I mean, I've consistently said that Trump would have all these things come together in opposition to him. And just because Trump and his core group want to blow up the government in part to deregulate so that businesses have a little more freedom, there's still a lot of existing institutions that are here, have been here, successfully implanted. And I think there'll be a pushback. And one of those places, I think, is the United States military. We have alliances with NATO. We have things going on. I just do not, I continue to say this, I just don't think that it's a cakewalk for him. And I think there's a lot of pushback yet to come. So we'll see. But that's my take on it. I don't think just because this has happened, I expect investigations into the election. I expect investigations into the count. I expect investigations into how he's circumventing safeguards that were put in place, not just to make the government run efficiently, but due to our alliances with other people. We have responsibilities with other people, and I believe all those factors will come into play. So that's my shorthand take on Trump.
And we've had confirmation from a couple of places that there are investigations happening. Oh, I wanted to finish my thought on the outer bounds planets, by the way.
Please.
Because as they move back in bounds, November the 30th, December the 3rd, Mercury first, then Venus, then later Ceres, things people will want to come back to the normal way of doing things. That's, you know, that's my feeling on those. So that's another indication. So this is kind of a timeline. And we are kind of going to look at those timelines a little bit on some other charts, you know. I don't know about you guys, but I'm kind of overlooking at him for today.
Please, can we go to the USA chart?
Yes, let's do that. So here's the USA chart. And I'm going to leave the today's transits, I think, on this so we can have a look at what's happening. But let's look at your timeline, Kathy, which I've written down as well. So,
right. Well, I want to start with the square. With the T-square that this full moon is making to the US moon.
Yeah. So let me just get it to the full moon actually, so people can see that more.
And to explain that, this means that the moon in the sky, conjunct Uranus, conjunct Algol, opposite the sun in the sky, the two ends are both squaring, creating tension, forcing action upon, putting pressure on the US moon, which represents the people. So there is something happening here that's very explosive, say activating, motivating the people. And I'll just throw out that this is also on Biden's Chiron and North Node. His Chiron, his wound, which I think has a lot to do with dealing with bullies, conjunct the North Node is in the middle of this, and Jack Smith's moon is also in the middle of this. So there's something, we have other people we can look at to see what actions they take growing out of this. This has an incredible awakening moment on the US populace. So there could be explosive news today that causes a groundswell of, wait a second.
Yeah. And it's in the third house of kind of how we think, how we communicate, the voice, all of that kind of stuff as well. So, you know, They square, that is, sorry. Yeah. Yeah, to the moon. Yeah. And to add to your thought earlier, about Saturn stationing. So Saturn stationing in this ongoing relationship with the US Sun, square to the US ascendant. It's all kind of happening, in this house, really, or direct pointing at this house in many ways, isn't it? Yeah. Kathy, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
You did not. That was my next thing.
Yeah.
Before I go through the timeline, Andy, is there anything you want to say about this?
I mean, I'm pretty consistent with my just kind of simplistic kind of way of seeing it, which is I do think that what I've said forever, that the collective energy, the collective emotional space of the majority of American people does not match Trump. And I think that that's significant. And I think that there will be pushback. I don't think that people will remain passive. I don't think that it will just be whatever you all want, just burn it down. We're happy with it. I don't think that's going to happen. So because there's no real historical precedent within the United States, it's very difficult, certainly, for people to have anchors as to what to expect. But the idea that these institutions were created to safeguard against the kinds of things that are happening right now, I think that that's a really important piece. So the United States, at its inception, was created with a formula for how it could maintain itself. And I think anything in the chart that reflects tension, and you would expect this, Saturn, Pluto, or certain kinds of planets, now is an opportunity for that to be expressed. So I still maintain that this experiment of Trumpism will fail. We will see, but I think all the charts are reflective at a minimum that this streamlined, process that they want is not likely to happen over the next few months.
No, and I think looking at the timeline astrologically, just is for me to give people kind of like, that this is not all going to happen and come to light and turn around all on one day. So yes, have we all, like, I agree with Andy that ultimately this is not going to come to much or anything in the end, but it's going to feel like it is at the time. So please just, people kind of look for the news as all the energies that we're going to look at start to shift, is my point. And I wanted to mention that Black Moon Lilith is opposing the moon as well. So, and that to my mind is women going, or the not just women, kind of the wild part of ourselves, the part that's been pushed out. Black Moon Lilith, we all have Black Moon Lilith, but she's kind of angry energy. She's been sidelined. She's been pushed out. And of course, associated with the moon as well. She's in truth coming out. There's so much happening. So before I want to show you the progress chart for the US chart, but before I do, is there anything else? We're on today at the moment, but
all right. So you want to look at the progress chart today and then go through, continue the timeline in a minute.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. I just want to show people that the US is. We know that US has been going through Pluto return, Chiron return, Neptune opposition, all these things. We could explain all of those, but I just want to show you one thing. And thanks to Heather Roan Robbins for pointing that out to me. So this is the progressed chart for the US today. It's just had a secondary progressed new moon, which is, does not happen all the time. And this is being affected by all these planets stationing direct and turning around in the sign of Pisces. And it's also kind of like a new start for the USA and I could try and get it back to exact when it was, but I can't remember when.
We're close.
It's close, yeah. It would have been a probably 20 Pisces, to be honest, because the progressed moon moves pretty quickly. Or actually, I bet it was at 19 Pisces, which is where both Saturn and Nessus, the revealer of abuses of power, stationed retrograde. They both stationed at 19 Pisces.
Notice that the progressed Mercury is the focal point of a T-square from the full moon.
Yes.
So that's bringing up the concept of, and that echoes the fact that the full moon is hitting, lighting up the Sibley chart communication house. So the communication planet is also getting pressurized in the progressed chart.
Yeah, yeah. And not only that, the progressed nodes, if you want to look at those, are back into Cancer, and they're heading back over all of the USA's Cancer planets, primarily Mercury, first of all. So I think the US political system is learning a big hard lesson at the moment. We've mentioned that before about how the holes in our institutions and how things need to be firmed up and all kinds of stuff like that. So, right, because we've got a lot to talk about, I'm just going to go back to the US chart, okay, and get back to the transits. So the 19th, the next one is the 19th. Yep. So as we mentioned, Pluto will move into Aquarius for the last time in our lifetimes. And so that's on late November the 19th, depending where you are in the world. It'll be at different parts for you, but this is in the second house. And that's the USA's kind of values and self-worth and all that kind of stuff. Anything,
resources,
resources too. Yeah, yeah. And resources are kind of not just physical resources, money and things. It's all the things that are our resources. Yeah. Anything else you want to say about that, Kathy? Because I'm just looking what aspects it makes.
Well, the one other thing I want to mention about that is this summer on July 21st, there was a full moon at 29 degrees Capricorn, which kind of presaged this final wrap-up moment of Pluto in Capricorn. So Pluto in Capricorn has been about deconstructing institutions and foundations and systems and showing where there is corruption and emphasizing top-heavy power. Pluto in Aquarius has a lot more to do with grassroots, collective, but also the power of technology. And we've got these people who have enormous amounts of money. Some of the richest people on the planet also control technology. So what I want to mention is on July 21st, full moon at 29 degrees Capricorn, conjunct Pluto at 0 Aquarius. So is a bridge between the old way and the new way. And Mars, which makes things happen, was in Gemini in an unbroken trine to that Pluto in Aquarius. And on that day, that is the day that one of the longest lived politicians in our country, the current president, Joe Biden, decided he was not be a candidate, and he handed the torch over to his vice president, Kamala Harris. And immediately, the Zoom campaign meeting phenomenon erupted, which I mention as an expression of Pluto in Aquarius energy. So it would seem to me there may be something once Pluto makes that once it moves back into 0 Aquarius, and it's going to sit at that point for weeks and weeks and weeks before it inches to the first degree, 1 Aquarius. There may be something that resurfaces of that phenomenon. Just watch for that.
And also, to go back to the rulerships of Aquarius, Uranus is transiting the 6th house, which is very analytical, very kind of getting into the details, has this kind of detective quality as well, and about diving in deep. I really think the investigations are going to uncover something. I don't know what, because there's various rumors flying around. I don't know which ones are actual, which ones are not, but there's a lot flying around that's going to come out. And Pluto excavates, right? Pluto excavates the shadow. Pluto's associated with digging in deep to excavate both the shadow and buried treasure in many ways. So, yeah.
And there's more to come with that with the next bit on our
Oh,
timeline. And do you have anything you want to say about Pluto moving into Aquarius? Andy, do you have anything you want to say about Pluto moving into Aquarius?
Yeah, me personally, I think it has a lot to do with technology. And especially with it being in the second house, there's a lot of military applications to technology that is being kind of revolutionized in part because of AI. The interlinkage of things like Starlink and the interlinkage of the private sector and the military, there could be questions with that coming out with Musk or Teal or other people. I think that relationship is likely to come into some sort of investigatory kind of space. It would not surprise me that there is a lot of rapid changes in technology in general. And the United States and every other country is going to have to be really up to speed with that, because the ways in which things change now is at such a gigantic pace. The balance of power could shift very dramatically. And I think when you look at alliances, NATO is a prime example. This was built on a certain kind of worldview from 1945. That technology that we see now didn't exist. And so there's a lot of shaking and baking, I think. And I think that is a big piece of Pluto. And with it being there in Aquarius, that Uranian electricity, speed kind of energy connected to money, who gets paid, how do these contracts get given out. I think all those things are going to be big deals, and I think that is really a huge thrust behind what Trump's trying to do. So do we allow that to happen or not? That's, I think, the big question to play out here.
I always think of Aquarius.
I hope that makes sense the way I'm saying it.
Oh, yeah. It does. I always think of Aquarius energy as connecting dots. It's kind of this energy that can kind of see the big picture and pull all these pieces together over time. And yes, it's technology for sure. I think there's going to be a lot of kind of puzzle pieces pulled together. Also, I want to mention that 0 Aquarius degree is a very hot degree. We had a Venus-Mars conjunction there. We had, the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction there. The Great Mutation, as it was called, which is kind of funny because I always think of Aquarius and Uranus as mutation, kind of alien kind of energies. So it is a hot degree. So it's been activated several times. And I think this is kind of the final blast of Pluto at that degree to a certain extent, but it'll be activated by other things. So I think it's really going to dig deep and reveal some major things.
So should we move on to the Mercury retrograde station?
Yeah, let's do that. So,
all right, so we have this new stuff happening, and then we have the moment to go, oops, wait a minute, let's rethink, let's go back, let's look at some things. Mercury's the planet of communication. I'll just blither while you're looking for the chart.
It's here.
It's the oh, it is here. Oh, okay, sorry.
It's all right. Yeah.
So, Anyway, there was always a moment of do-overs, picking up loose pieces, picking up threads, seeing where there was confusion, seeing where there was lying, seeing where there was deceit. And
Mm-hmm.
this starts, it's in the first house of the US's identity.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it is making,
An opposition to Mars.
uh-huh, Mars being the planet of attack, war, information war,
Um,
Mars
but
and Gemini.
but but also in open enemies, it could also refer to, you know, finding out some. It represents the military too. We might find out there are some rogue people in the military, things like that, but also some good people because it's Gemini, goes both ways. We, you know, Millie and people like that have turned out, you know, to be kind of whistleblower kind of energy. So, you know, we're going to discover a lot, I think, from this. It's also square um, the US Neptune. So, do you want to talk about that? Um, one of
Well,
you?
it's pushing out an awful lot about church and state
Mm-hmm.
separation or not,
Mm-hmm.
fundamentalism, racism, white supremacy, uh, lingering wounds, like
Mm.
what we thought we were going to be and what we're not. It's actually making a T square because it's opposing where Neptune currently is, which is
Mm-hmm.
in a position where the Civil War started, and where it was when we were formed, and also where it was when in the 40s.
Mm.
So we're going to go back, and actually it's making a grand cross if you look at it that way. So
It
there's this
it is.
splayed energy, but it's mutable, so things could go this way and that way and this way and that way
Mm.
and not resolve until the middle of December.
Yeah, and you know, I always think of this kind of mutable kind of grand cross energy, especially with Neptune, because I always think of Neptune when it's activated in these ways as often kind of revealing what's been hidden, kind of clearing the clouds, because Neptune is very cloudy kind of energy. There's a lot of truths going to be revealed coming from the information that's found out. And it's also about perceptions, beliefs, and ideas. So people's perceptions and ideas are going to be kind of shifted and changed, and which isn't always easy for many people to kind of admit. But we are already seeing, apparently, a lot of people going, I didn't think he meant it, and kind of having this voter regret, you know, and searches for can I change my vote were really high and so on. Yeah.
And politics and foreign influences are going to be really hot because
Mm-hmm.
Mercury is in Sagittarius.
Yes.
And interestingly, uh, current where Neptune currently is and where
Mm-hmm.
Neptune is in our birth chart, that's the information axis.
Mm-hmm.
And they're in the houses that are naturally ruled by, I know you don't like the word ruled, Gemini and Sagittarius, and Mercury and Mars are in
Mm-hmm.
Gemini and Sagittarius. So there's really a terrific amount going on here about
Awesome.
what's true,
So
what's false information, what has been lied about, what's been manipulated, where's the deception been.
mm-hmm.
There's more to this story,
Way
a lot
more.
more.
And Jupiter, of course. I mean, oh, let's just stick with the term ruler. Jupiter is the ruler of Sagittarius, and that's retrograde as well in Gemini. In that, so all these mutable energies and planets are really speaking to each other. There's so much going to change, so much information going to be revealed, I think, and so many minds and beliefs changed. For everybody, but this is for the USA chart, of course. So, yeah.
Andy, you got
I
anything on
mean,
the retrograde?
I just think it's going to be different. I mean, I think what we
Mm.
typically associate with the idea of retrograde planets, the idea that things don't work in a conventional fashion, is absolutely going to be the case. And I think the fact that Jupiter is going to be going direct again and hitting Trump's North Node and Sun,
Mm-hmm.
I think that that's also a significant thing. What is he? and we think of Jupiter from a legal standpoint lots of times. How does the court system play into this? I would expect that the court system is going to be very taxed by what's going on here, and it's just going to get entertaining. I mean, simplistically put,
yeah,
the ways in which people think, it's just going to, tick, tick, tick from the election to the inauguration. We talked about this before. I don't believe it plays out that way. I think there are a lot of surprises. And I would think that all this retrograde motion, especially in my opinion with Mars, and especially from the idea that it goes from 6 Leo, and that's in the relationship to the US chart, which you two can talk about more. I think that suggests a certain amount of tension and a certain amount of this is different than what we're used to. So that's my take on it.
Can we go to the Mars retrograde?
Yeah, let me just quickly mention Nessus retrograde.
Sure.
Just another date. Nessus, revealer of abuses of power, stations direct on November the 30th, and that's also in that third house with Saturn. Incidentally, the US had a Nessus return, but that's another. I just wanted to say that's another thing, another tide turning of revealing things coming out and changing. Okay, so but let's dive on to Mars, because that's huge. That this particular period, which actually I think December, it's just before the states are due to meet, right, to certify the election. Yeah.
There's a whole bunch of stuff happening all at once, December 6th and 7th. So everyone just mark that as a time when you're going to go, what?
Yeah.
That's WHAAAAA question mark.
Well, Mercury by that time is past halfway point of its retrograde and is on the US ascendant at that point as well. Mars stations retrograde on the US North Node, which, varying opinions about what the North Node means, but it's kind of what we strive to be more of in some ways, which, go on. Yeah.
Well, and it's in the house of investments in other people's resources. So this, to me, speaks to our alliances. In a sense, it's the global alliances that we have. That's a piece of it, even though this isn't a house you wouldn't ordinarily think of that. And a Mars retrograde, just like a Mercury retrograde, everyone, offers the opportunity to go back over and do things over, find out new find out new things. This one could have a militaristic tint to it because Mars does rule the military. It could involve men, it could involve attacks, there's all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's also drive and will and the push to pioneer things and things like that, so there's so many layers here of what's going on. But very next day, but before we move to the next day, Venus and Ceres are together at 29 Capricorn, where they are now. And then the very next day, and remember, their Venus will be back in bounds by this point. The three, Venus, Ceres, and Pluto, are all at 0 Aquarius. And in many ways, to me, they mean kind of mythologically the whole Demeter Persephone kind of story, but also kind of the realms of the mind, body, and spirit of the underworld, the world we're in now, and the upper world coming together. Because I'm a bit of a shamanic astrologer. But I've been eyeing this conjunction for so long because it's on my husband's birthday. I can't remember when I first spotted it. It just screamed to me of a healing opportunity in many ways.
Well, I see Venus and Pluto do have a natural resonance because
they do.
Venus
I agree with that.
Venus rules money and desire, kind of like the mortal ways of experiencing them. And Pluto is the unfathomably feral, huge subconscious obsession, attraction,
Mm-hmm.
cellular impulses, and unfathomable wealth. And they're fusing, and it's a transforming,
Mm-hmm.
empowering. This is like goddess uprising. I brought you into this world and I'm going to take you out of it level energy.
It really is, and with Ceres as well being kind of the great mother, representing. I feel she represents our needs, both met and unmet, and also grief, forgiveness, loss. All of those kind of things. But all of those coming together, it's kind of screaming. There's a big old kind of light saying, what's happening is not meeting ours or the people's needs in many ways. But yes, I agree with Venus and Pluto resonance. Absolutely.
And there's one other really big thing happening at this time. So that's why 6th and the 7th, huge cluster, pay attention, because Neptune, cosmic fog machine, stations direct. There could be that cluster, that trio of energies that you've been discussing, Louise, and Neptune stationing direct could be a massive air clearing moment of, oh, there we go.
Absolutely, because this literally Neptune stations direct literally while these three are at zero Aquarius. I've just got it to the exact moment on December the 7th. But of course, Neptune's big energy. You'll feel that tide turning energy building. But the 6th and 7th are just enormous days, Yeah. And also, of course, we had that progressed moon, new moon. Oh, there's so much going on. Yeah.
I have one other date I want to go to, but before we do, Andy, anything
I
about
was
all of this?
yeah, real quickly, when Louise brought up that this Mars retrograde was going to be right smack dab on the north node of the original chart for the U.S., that just kind of clanged me as like this is a big deal.
Oh.
And all the things that you two are saying, all these planetary configurations, to me, I look at it and kinds of levels of intensity. To me, all the things that you're talking about is like we're revving up the ampage. Everything's getting hotter. And because of that, whatever's inherently there is going to be magnified. So if it's happy, it's going to be happier. If it's contentious, it's going to be more contentious. But I would think that that period from, let's say, December 5th to the 15th is going to be intense. And it would not surprise me. And you two are much more conversant with the transits for that period. But like I say, when Louise brought this up when we spoke the last time, I didn't know that was true. It was like, whoa, that has to be significant. And all the other things you two are bringing up, to me, it just adds to the probability that there's going to be a lot of things happening all at one time. And that's going to be a transitional period. I think that those 10 days are going to be a big deal.
And meanwhile, as we approach the next date we're going to look at, the transiting nodes are creeping closer and closer to the midheaven and IC of the US chart, which kind of is the public visibility and the basis of security. And, when the angles, so, the ascendant, the midheaven, the descendant, and the IC are aspected, that's always a big deal as well. So, anyway.
And Louise, may I ask you a question? What do you, both you and Kathy, how do you feel about Mercury going retrograde over the U.S. ascendant into the 12th house and turning direct from the 12th house side again? How do you two see that playing out?
I'll let you go first, Kathy.
Yeah. I think there may be developments behind the scenes that then are brought forward. Developments behind the scenes that affect what our public face is and our identity. That's what I think.
And it's also, you know, in old traditional astrology, often about hidden enemies in the 12th. So finding out perhaps things, you know, that people about some people we hadn't even realized before, you know. Well,
Good point.
Don't you think that thematically that ties in to the ways in which we see Trump wondering who he's really in bed with, who he, if he has made alliances behind the scenes, with whom that is, you know? I mean, it sounds to me from what you two are saying that thematically would tie into that. I just think that the first part of December is where it heats up.
Oh,
and I'll draw that into what you're saying. The Mars retrograde in the 8th house is in the 8th and the 12th house. You'd mentioned Mercury going back into the 12th. The 8th and 12th houses are houses of criminality.
Yes, they are. And imprisonment as well, the 12th. You know, each area of the chart has so many layers. So, you know, all of these things. Yeah. And meanwhile as well, Jupiter is creeping closer and closer to the descendant ascendant of the USA's chart. So everything's kind of shifting to bring radical change. Yeah.
And I'll throw one other thing out. See, Jupiter is at 16 Gemini in this chart. It will have moved over Trump's Uranus at that point. His Uranus is at 17.
It is. That's a good point.
So beginning of December, you know, it's not a conveyor belt to the White House, folks. It's not a smooth conveyor belt. This is when gravel starts getting into the machinery and things start just spewing up and spewing up and spewing up.
Do you want to go to the
15th?
15th. Yeah, Mercury.
So on December 15th, Mercury retrograde stations direct, and as it does that, it makes a trine to Mars and the North Node. So the US North Node and Mars. So there's this period of time from December 6th to December 15th where both Mercury and Mars are retrograde. So there's this double emphasis on digging, pulling information up, looking at things again and again and again. And something aligns, something falls into place. By the 15th, it's like, well, now we know.
Yes, yeah. And you know,
there's action.
Yes, I was just about to say that. Mars being action, really. No, you've said it, so it's fine. I love that I love that we were both about to say exactly the same thing. This is all happening, you know. So it's just, I love that these two are lining up in the middle of December. And incidentally, I think, is it December the 16th or 17th? The states are certifying the elections.
Or are they? We'll see.
Well, they're scheduled to.
Yeah, they're scheduled.
Yeah, so that's kind of speaks to me as either, you know, there's a turnaround in that scheduling or a moving of the dates or something. Yeah.
Or information coming out that changes the vote count. It's not out of the realm of possibility, folks.
No, it isn't. All the votes are not even counted as we're recording this anyway. And Harris has been fundraising for recounts. Now that could mean a couple of states, or it doesn't, you know, but just wait, you know, things are changing. Yeah. So, and this is another peak point, I think, with Mercury stationing direct, Mars still pretty much at his station degree, and the North Node of the USA being hit. And again, transiting nodes getting even closer to the midheaven and the IC. I use the true calculation of the nodes, by the way.
And Pluto in Aquarius trining the North Node. I mean, trining the South Node in the midheaven. So it's some kind of evolutionary moment.
Very much so. Yeah. Anything from you, Andy, about that moment?
again, that sounds really significant to me, Kathy, what you just said. I still maintain that there's all these elements that will come to the surface.
Mm-hmm.
The irony in some sense is that Trump's whole spiel was that there's all this stuff behind the scenes that was happening, which didn't really happen. But what it did was it sort of framed this cognitive, mindset of people that, oh, we can't say these things because Trump has said it. But if the things that Trump said that weren't true when he said it are actually true, then I think it's important for people to reframe their own approaches to it and to take action. I would think with Pluto there in the second, in terms of resources and the way we look at our public facing, position in the world, that is a super big deal. So my answer or my input is that particular transit in conjunction with all these other things that are happening early in December, I would think there's a lot that comes out relative to intention and what that means. And if this is really what's going on, do I want to go along with you after all? I think those things, a little bit of buyer's remorse is likely to happen more and more as the true nature of what's going on with Trump and those people behind Trump becomes more in our public consciousness. And I think that is the biggest change that's going to happen between now and 30 days from now.
I mean, even looking at the Republican Party, he's basically shutting out the normal people in the Republican
Absolutely.
Party. So when are they going to kind of go, oh, we're just kind of here to kind of support his agenda. He's not kind of giving us any roles. But anyway, do we want to move on to Biden?
Please, I have a lot to say about what's going on with Biden.
And which chart would you like?
Can we start with his natal chart? Because
yes, absolutely.
There's some things that are immediately noticeable in that.
Yes. So Joe Biden, who is still the president, you guys.
And for people who are sitting around and screaming and saying, why did he invite Trump to the White House? Why doesn't he do anything? I refer you back to July 21st. For weeks before that, there was all kinds of pressure about do this, do that, do this, do that. And there were no leaks from the White House about what it was he was going to do. And then he suddenly acted. He has a packed 12th house. The man operates behind the scenes. He's got 4 placements in Scorpio. I always say never bet against a Scorpio in a cage match.
Oh, yes. And he keeps his cards close to his chest. And that's why he had Trump to the White House. He's like going to continue the norms, isn't he? He's going to continue what's traditional, what's fixed in place. But there's other stuff going on behind. So what do you want me to look at with Joe's chart? First of all,
could you put today's full moon in Saturn?
I can, yeah. So
just real quickly, if I may, the investigatory process for how you would investigate criminal activity is typically to keep everything hidden until the very end.
Yeah.
So the fact that there's nothing being revealed publicly does not mean there's not action, a lot of action behind the scenes.
Yeah. And that's
I think that's an important piece for people to remember.
There have been 2 raids in the first week after the 2 raids involved.
And that's a big deal.
Yeah. And Scorpio is very detective. It digs in and things, but it's also a very private, secretive sign. So it's not going to kind of reveal what is going on yet. So stop screaming these things. We do not need to know it all right now. I think we need to trust this stuff going on. Drives me nuts. But anyway.
As I brought up before, notice that the sun is on top of his stellium, his Mercury, Sun and Venus, and it's opposite Uranus and Algo and the full moon in his 6th house. And all of that is squaring his Chiron and North Node in the 9th house of politics, belief system, faith. He's being called to action.
He really
He's taking this personally. This is affecting his sense of fairness, and this is having a very profound emotional impact on him. And I don't think he's just going to roll over and play dead. And I think there's still plenty of gas in Joe's tank. But that's what you just said, Kathy, would suggest that he is feeling that this is like, I'm going to stand up to the bully. That's the way I would interpret what you just said in terms of his astrological placement.
I just added the midpoint of his Mercury and Sun in, and
there you go.
There you go. Full moon exactly on it. We don't need to leave that in. It complicates things.
But, oh wow, that's intense.
I know. So Mercury, the psychic detective, as well in the 12th house, and all of that. Yeah, go on.
And there's a tenacity to this, okay?
Oh,
tenacity,
and cunning as well as another.
Cunning.
Yeah. Yeah.
So can you move it to Pluto, the Pluto ingress?
Absolutely.
Because notice, everybody, he's got the moon, which is his emotional driver, in the house of his children and expressing himself. And it's at 0 Taurus, which means that Pluto moving into 0 Aquarius is exactly squaring that. And this is causing him to push his values. And he's like our grandfather, right?
Yeah.
He has this I'm taking care of everyone vibe to things. This is also pushing to action. And Pluto in the second house of resources and values is making a trine, unbroken flow, to Neptune in the 10th house. Neptune, idealism, his beliefs. He is actually kind of a spiritual leader. And I swear to you, the man is known to pray daily, to go to church daily.
Yeah.
And that Pluto was trying his Neptune the day he decided to withdraw from the race.
And it's making this air-gram trine to his Uranus as well. It's just and me with my lovely little asteroids to add another kind of thing into it. His Neptune is conjunct asteroid Hecate, which is a very healing energy of kind of bringing things together and a crossroads which we're at. And his Neptune is on the midheaven of the US chart,
So I want to jump in real quickly, if I may. Forgive me.
No.
Joe Biden has lost a child.
Right.
And he's had one of his other children basically tormented.
He's lost more than one child. He lost some when he was younger too. So yeah.
Yes, and his wife. Yeah. So he's gone through a profound sense of loss and sadness. And as I've lost a child, and that changes you, and it changes your tolerance for how you let people mess with the children you still have. And I think that when he looks at, and I look at it much the same way, and I'm sure there are a lot of people, the legacy that we have created for our children and grandchildren, the generations to come, all that's being thrown into the toilet. And I think that, again, based on the placements that Kathy brought up just a few moments ago, all would suggest to me that he sees this as a call to action, as a protective parent, and protective parents just don't roll over and play dead. And all that Scorpio energy, he's going to sting. I think that there are significant investigations happening, probably with the, involvement of foreign countries, NATO, and the United States military. I think Trump's in more trouble than he is just free sailing. But those placements to me would suggest his wounded healer, again, with Chiron, that he's not going to just play dead and allow this to happen without at least putting up a fight.
Yeah. And his Chiron...
That's my feeling about him.
His Chiron and North Node conjunction out of sign, but his Chiron is on both Trump's ascendant and Vance's. It's kind of like they've ignited this core wound in him. And I feel like we're seeing Dark Brandon, to look at some other things like Gemini and Libra as alliances and relationships. He's been building these alliances for decades. He knows who to
Yes, for
trust.
years and years and years.
He knows who to trust and who to talk to, and he will be having conversations, I think. Yeah, he's pissed. I think he's like, don't f with my country kind of energy.
I think that that's true, and I think that
Yeah.
that's a big deal. And I think that the United States officer corps, just like what Mark Milley said, when he retired, I don't think that they're going to just willingly allow this to happen either. And Biden has a real sense of our historical nature relative to the Marshall Plan and NATO and our position in the world. I think he feels a sense of loyalty to that collective. And Trump is trying to blow that up. And I think that he feels, and a lot of other people in positions of influence feel, that that is not something that they will allow to just, be dismantled for parts. I think it's going to get contentious. I still persist that Trump's got more problems than, benefits in the short term.
I think so. And look where the sun is when Pluto ingresses, right on his Venus. He's talking to people, and he's
for sure.
I think he's calling in favors, so to speak.
For sure. Louise, I'm 1,000% down with that.
What's going on is much bigger than us. Much bigger than us. And look at his 8th house. He has Pluto at 7 degrees Leo, and we've already seen that Mars is
right on the
retrograde
Mars
at 6 Leo. So there'll be and it's going to go as it's retrograde is going to take it over is Jupiter and then come back around again. This is not the end of the story.
But Kathy, you just said that his Pluto's at 7 Leo.
Yes.
Yeah.
What do you two think about that in relationship to the North Node of the U.S. chart?
Well,
regeneration,
but also determined to. He's got Pluto in the 8th house, which I have Pluto in the 8th house. We like to really dig into what's hidden and finding out and taking out the trash, basically.
And Mars going retrograde on his Pluto. Wow, this is good. I mean, I wasn't aware that these transits were hitting him this way. Again, I'm not the astrologer in the family here in the same way you two are, but I would think that has to be incredibly significant. That's again throws this period of the first half of December to me more into the forefront than ever. I just think that the lot's going to come out in that little window of time.
Yeah.
Well, his solar return chart plays into this too. Can we move on to that?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Okay, so for people watching out there, the solar return chart puts the sun in the current year where it was when you were born, and then you see what your emotional drivers are, what the energies are that are going to be playing around within you, and his.
I'm just getting the nearest. There we go. Nearest one. This is his.
All right.
There we go. Just to show you the chart on its own. First of all,
got all this stuff in the 12th. Holy moly!
His solar return chart has the moon, his emotional driver, on the U.S. sun in the 9th house of law and systems and belief systems. That is enormous. Notice also because I'm adamant about this, his solar return chart has Mars, planet of action, in the 9th house of everything I've just said, and it's up there at the top of the chart. Before he came out of the race, this to me said this man is going to be president again, because he's not going away. This is, I don't care if you call him Sleepy Joe, say whatever you want. This is a fire getting ignited, and it's getting ignited for the year for him. This energy stays in place. And it's getting ignited where Mars is gonna retrograde.
Yep, definitely. And I think you may have had some other things to say about him, but I kind of immediately look at he's got this Scorpio rising this year as well, for his so he's again going to keep his cards close to his chest until it's time, and and don't underestimate him. Scorpios are powerful when they're like when they get their teeth into something or their fingernails clinging onto something, they are like, I'm not going to stop until this is sorted. Yeah.
And Kathy,
I'm sorry, go on.
Let me ask you a question real quickly. I can't really see the chart that well, so it looks like the moon and the south node are in the 12th.
No,
right?
The moon's in the ninth.
What? So I can't even tell what these are. But the south node is in the 12th, right?
Yeah.
What else does he have in the 12th?
He's got some asteroids and black moon Lilith, but they're
all right.
But they're all in Libra, and Vesta is the state in many ways as well as other things. It's kind of his mission to fix this and stop this takedown of what really is turning out to be a decapitation of all the structures of the US. That's what is the plan.
With that, I would point you to where Pluto is in his solar return chart. It is in the very last minute of its time in Capricorn. It's at 29 degrees, 59 minutes. He is the last man standing of the old order.
Yep, he really is. Yep. And he knows.
I think that's true.
And he knows it. And I think he's prepared to just give it all. I don't think he cares what happens to his health or anything at this point. I think he's just like, this is my mission. And I go back to his phrase when he got elected about saving the soul of America. I think that's what he feels he's here for at this point in his life, And yes, there's probably things that need to change and stuff, but anyway, that's another subject.
Well, and look at the 7th house of partners and open enemies. Uranus conjunct Algol. Sit his sun. He's staring down. He's staring down the decapitation.
He is, yeah. Yep. So yeah, just wild. And Mercury and Pallas Athena, kind of truth and justice. It's in the 2nd house of resources.
And is that Ceres next to Pluto? That Scythe?
It is
in the 3rd house.
Yep.
And that's trine Eurus and Algol.
It is. Yeah. And Ceres is that great mother energy. It's but it's in all of us again. So it's let go of gender. I really think he feels he's like you said, the grandfather of us all at this moment, who has to save us and protect us in some way. He's so driven in this chart, in my opinion. Yeah.
To me, this says, don't pay any attention to the silence coming out of the White House.
No.
It's no indication of what's going on, and what's definitely not with him. And this fighter energy continues for a year. Yes. A year, folks.
Yes, it does. It's set in stone. Yeah. And it all makes me very, very hopeful. So anyway, yeah. So Mercury, well, I don't know if you want to look at the transits. I don't think we need to with that. That's no. Anything else we want to look at? We've been on quite a while. Maybe we've got other charts to look at and things. We've gone into quite great detail. It's a lot for people to take in. Maybe we just arrange to do another video. We've got Jack Smith's chart we could look at, Vance's chart we could look at, Elon Musk's chart, Mark Milley's. There's lots of charts to look at. But I think really overall, on a quick look at them, they're all showing the same story, that this is changing. And it's, it's kind of like my feeling about it overall, and I'll let you guys have your kind of thing as well afterwards, is quite simply that it's the astrology shows it, but what he's doing as well is Trump and all of those people behind him, Musk and everybody, I think they've overplayed their hand. They've come in with this
I agree with that.
They've come in with this plan. It's kind of shocking everybody, Uranus, Algol, and people are just going, they're reeling. And I think they were not cunning and smart like Joe Biden can be. Anyway, yeah. What about you two and your final words on this call?
Well, what speaks to what you've just said is an aspect that some astrologers used to justify, oh, Trump's going to win. And that was that on election day, Jupiter was sitting on his sun, except it was Jupiter retrograde.
Yes.
And Jupiter is more. And this is absolute overreach.
Yes.
Absolute overreach. And we are now seeing absolute overreach. Like, whoa, no, this is cartoonishly large.
I know.
This is, this is Looney Tunes. This is Looney Tunes large.
Oh, this involves Thiel and Musk and all, and that whoever that big donor was to Polymarket. You remember that there was somebody investing huge amounts of money in Polymarket for that betting thing, not from this country. This is such a web of plans. And anyway, yeah, Andy, what about you?
I agree with what you just said, that they will overplay their hand. I've been saying that specific thing for a long time, that they would feel that they had much more control. It was much more smooth sailing than in fact it really was. And I think that the pushback is still there. I think it's yet to be revealed. I'm still optimistic, but do I think that they believe that they're smarter? I was an executive at Enron. I personally wrote the disaster recovery plan for Enron, was the head of customer satisfaction. I know that sounds crazy, but I've seen stuff. And it has a similarity to me, the smartest guys in the room with Enron. And I said when I was there that there were problems and they were the biggest company in the world at the time. It has a similar dynamic in that this hubris and this sense of we're just better and smarter and more powerful than you. But there were forces that took down Enron. And I think those same types of forces, for similar reasons, will come back and impact Trump, Musk, and the rest of them. So we'll see.
Yeah. And it will both impact and shore up some of our global alliances as well, I think.
Absolutely.
Over time. Yeah. Yeah.
So the takeaway I would like to put out for everyone is, please think of how much energy you have put into thinking about this, worrying about this for years and years and years and years and years. Entertain the possibility that there's stuff going on that you can't see. And please,
thank you.
Please enjoy your own life. Please build networks and communities, Pluto and Aquarius, that feed you. Find the people you like being with. Go be with people you like. Please go do things you like. Please.
Yes.
Please.
But
amen to that, sister. I'm totally 1000% down with that. Keep preaching, girl. Yes.
I have one other plea, actually, is to stop thinking that, politics is that and you are this. Start getting involved at local levels and things, even if it's just donating, supporting. If you want to kind of live in if you've got problems with the country and you want better leaders, start getting involved and working for it as well. And that's kind of now. I'm not saying do big things, just everybody playing their part, because I'm quite shocked as an immigrant that the US population as a whole is so uninformed and uninvolved in politics.
And I agree with everything you just said with that too. And I think it's super important. And thank you both for continuing to speak out.
Yeah.
As one of the two Aquarians on this, I will also just once again say, if you look at this and go, oh, I can't do that. I can't do that. Clean up your part of the world, make your little part of the world
Yes.
happy. Be with
Yes.
people that you're creating, or you're sharing food and you're having a moment where life feels
Yes.
so, and all of those moments build a grid of a different way of being. So if you don't have it within you to go to political action meetings,
Oh,
fine.
no.
You can do it on, you know, there are tiny bits
Well,
of making this
politics
place.
is local too, you know, getting involved just in, you know, a community volunteer thing that makes you feel good is part of politics, really, because that's where it grows. Yes.
Right.
And as the other full moon Aquarius eccentric on this panel, I approve that message, Kathy. Thank you.
Thank
Well,
you.
all my progress stuff's in Aquarius, so you know, and I have a progress Sun Chiron conjunction happening right now at 27 Aquarius on the moon of the USA. So there you go.
My Chiron is 0 Aquarius, by the way.
Oh, yeah, we're
Happy
on our
Pluto time.
we're on our purpose then, I guess, all of us three. Okay, till next time, guys.
Thank you again, everybody. Have a happy week. It's going to get fun, but it'll get good. I do believe that. Don't give up.